Welcome back to our channel. In this video, we reveal some of the most valuable coins in the world, coins that collectors and investors are willing to pay thousands or even millions for. In today's video, you are about to uncover something that most people walk past every single day without a second glance. It looks ordinary, it sounds ordinary, but in the world of rare coin collecting, it has the potential to change everything you think you know about pocket change. We are talking about the 2009 D Mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny with reported error varieties that have stunned collectors and sparked listings reaching as high as extreme figures, in some cases even rumored up to $999,000 depending on condition, grading, and authenticity. Now, before you laugh or brush this off, ask yourself one simple question. What if the next coin you touch is the one that changes your financial future? Let's begin with something most people ignore. A penny. A single cent. It is the most underestimated piece of currency in American history. It gets tossed into jars, left in car cup holders, and forgotten in drawers. Yet, every now and then, a seemingly normal penny becomes the center of a collector frenzy. And this is where the story of the 2009 D. Lincoln penny begins to take shape in a way that demands your attention. Because in this world, rarity is not always loud. Sometimes, it is hiding in silence right in front of you. Now imagine this. You are sitting at home going through an old coin jar. Nothing special, just spare change. Then you notice something slightly different about a 2009 penny. The mint mark, the strike, the surface, something feels off. You flip it again. You zoom in. You question it. Is this just wear and tear? Or is this one of those rare error varieties that collectors actively hunt for? That moment of doubt is where opportunity is born. And here is the part most people miss. Hesitation is what causes people to throw away fortunes without realizing it. Let's slow down for a second, because this is where things get interesting. The 2009 Lincoln Cent series was already a special release year, marking the 200th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. That alone created collector attention. But certain error variations tied to minting inconsistencies, including double die effects, off-center strikes, and unusual mint mark characteristics from the Denver Mint, have circulated in the numismatic world as highly desirable pieces. And while not every coin is rare, the key is knowing what separates a 1-cent coin from a potentially life-changing collectible. Now here is where I need you to pay attention closely, because most people will hear error coin and immediately assume every coin is valuable. That is the trap. The real value comes from verified rarity, grading certification, and market demand among serious collectors. And this is where professional grading services like PCGS and NGC become the gatekeepers of value. Without authentication, even a rare-looking coin can remain just pocket change. But with it, the entire story changes. Let me ask you something. If you had a coin that could potentially be worth hundreds, thousands, or in extreme cases, reported listings approaching 6 figures or more depending on condition and rarity, would you even know? Or would it already be gone, spent without a second thought at a convenience store? That is not just a question of money. That is a question of awareness. And awareness is what separates collectors from the general public. Now let's bring a bit of excitement into this, because this is where people start leaning in. There have been cases in the broader Lincoln Cent market where rare error coins have sold for staggering amounts when multiple factors align. Mint errors, low population in grading reports, and strong collector demand. And while some online listings or claims may circulate extreme figures like $999,000, serious experts always emphasize verification and market validation. Still, the demand for rare Lincoln Cents remains undeniably strong, and that demand continues to grow as more collectors enter the market every year. And here's a funny reality check for you. Most people would rather spend 5 minutes scrolling on their phone than 5 minutes checking a coin that could potentially be worth more than their car. Isn't that interesting? We live in a world where people will argue about coffee prices but ignore the possibility of hidden value sitting in their own home. Let's shift into something even more important. Timing. Because in collectible markets, timing is everything. The longer you wait, the more coins disappear into private collections, and the harder it becomes to find high-grade examples. That means hesitation doesn't just cost opportunity. It reduces your chance of ever finding one again. And this is where urgency becomes real. Because every day coins are being spent, lost, or overlooked by people who simply don't know what they have. Now picture the alternative. Imagine discovering that a simple penny in your possession is not just a coin, but a certified rare variety. Imagine holding something that collectors actively search for, something that has documented sales history in strong condition, something that could be evaluated by professionals and potentially place you in a completely different financial conversation. That is not fantasy. That is the reality of numismatics when knowledge meets opportunity. We are now reaching the turning point of this story. Because the difference between those who benefit from rare coins and those who don't is not luck. It is action. It is awareness. It is taking the time to look closer when everyone else is rushing past. The 2009 Lincoln Cent series, especially certain Denver Mint issues with errors, continues to be a topic of discussion among collectors precisely because hidden varieties still surface from time to time. So here is your moment of clarity. Right now, somewhere in your home, there may be coins sitting in jars, boxes, or drawers that you have not looked at in years. And within that ordinary collection, there could be something extraordinary waiting to be recognized. The question is not whether rare coins exist. The question is whether you will take the time to notice them. As we close this out, I want you to think about something powerful. Wealth is not always created in big dramatic moments. Sometimes it starts with something as small as a penny. Something so small most people ignore it. Yet in the right condition, with the right error and the right demand, it can become something unforgettable. That is the world of rare coins, and it rewards those who pay attention. So before you move on to the next video, take this with you. Check your coins. Look a little closer, because the next time you hold a penny in your hand, you might not just be holding change. You might be holding opportunity. And in this market, opportunity doesn't wait forever. What if I told you that a simple 1-cent coin sitting in an old jar, a glove compartment, or even under a couch cushion could quietly hold the kind of value that changes a life overnight? Not in theory, not in some distant fantasy, but in real-world auction headlines, where rare Lincoln pennies have stunned collectors and investors with prices that climb into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And in some viral listings, even figures as high as $777,000 have been discussed in connection with ultra-rare error coins and exceptional specimens. Now, before you dismiss that as just internet noise, stay with me, because what you're about to understand could completely shift how you look at every penny in your possession. And if you're between 30 and 65, sitting on years, maybe decades, of change that's never been checked, this is exactly where opportunity quietly hides in plain sight. Let's begin. Imagine this. An ordinary-looking 2019 Lincoln Cent. No flashy design. No silver shine. Just a humble copper-colored coin that most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up off the sidewalk. Now imagine that same coin, under very specific conditions, becoming one of the most talked-about modern pennies in collector circles. Not because it was designed to be rare, but because something unusual slipped through the system. And here's where things get interesting. A lot of people hear no mint mark and immediately think error. But in reality, Philadelphia minted coins often carry no mint mark by design. So the real story, the part that creates excitement in the collector world, is not the absence of the mint mark itself, but the rare combination of striking errors, die anomalies, and unusual production quirks that can turn an everyday penny into a high-demand collectible. Now let me pause you right there, because this is where most people stop paying attention. But don't. Because the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and a coin worth thousands or even hundreds of thousands often comes down to details so small you'd miss them unless you knew exactly what to look for. Quick reality check. When was the last time you actually looked closely at the pennies in your house? That's the moment where curiosity usually kicks in. And maybe even a little regret. Because collectors are not just casually stumbling on these coins. They are actively hunting them, scanning rolls, buying bank boxes, and analyzing coins under magnification like detectives chasing hidden evidence. Now let's build the story properly to enact one of this coin's journey. It starts exactly where every penny starts, the US Mint. Millions are produced, stamped, and sent into circulation. Nothing special on the surface. But in rare cases, something goes wrong. A die shift, a misstrike, a weak impression, a doubled detail, or a subtle production anomaly that escapes quality control. And when that happens, the coin doesn't just become slightly different. It becomes part of a very small group that collectors actively compete for. Here's a pattern interrupt for you. If coins were people, most would be background extras in a movie. But error coins? Those are the unexpected main characters who steal the scene. Now let's move into Act 2, where things get serious. The 2019 Lincoln cent, particularly those without mint marks or with subtle anomalies, has been discussed in collector spaces because modern coins are not supposed to show dramatic rarity. They are mass-produced, high-efficiency items. That's exactly why errors in modern coinage are so fascinating. They stand out in a world where perfection is expected. Some reported examples that drive attention include misaligned strikes, die chips that create unusual textures on Lincoln's portrait, and rare planchet issues that affect the coin's weight or surface composition. In highly unusual cases, coins that are perfectly preserved and exhibit multiple anomalies can attract serious bidding wars among collectors. And this is where the emotional trigger hits most people. Excitement mixed with disbelief. Because suddenly, that jar of pennies doesn't look like spare change anymore. It looks like an unexamined portfolio. Now let's address the number that gets everyone's attention. The idea that certain rare versions of these coins have been associated with figures as high as $777,000 in viral listings and collector speculation. Here's the truth behind that level of value. When you see numbers like that in the coin world, they are almost always tied to extreme rarity conditions, exceptional grading scores, unique mint errors, or auction hype surrounding one-of-a-kind specimens. It is not the average coin. It is not even the rare but findable category. It is the top fraction of 1% of 1%. But here's the part most people miss, and this is critical: markets are driven by belief, demand, and scarcity. And in numismatics, perception can elevate value dramatically when the right buyer enters the room. Let me give you a quick mental reset here. Imagine two identical-looking coins. Same year, same design, same color. One is ordinary. The other has a hidden error so rare it can only be verified under magnification. One sells for a cent. The other triggers a bidding war between collectors who specialize in modern mint anomalies. Same coin, completely different world. Now we move into Act 3. This is where urgency enters the picture. Because while coins like this are still technically in circulation, they are quietly being removed every single day by collectors who know exactly what they're looking for. That means the longer you wait, the more likely it is that these coins get filtered out of everyday change and locked away in private collections. And here's a question that should sit with you for a moment. How many valuable coins have already passed through your hands without you ever noticing? That pause you just felt. That's awareness shifting. The truth is, most people will never check. They'll keep spending pennies without a second thought. But a small group, the informed group, will start paying attention. They'll examine edges. They'll look for doubling. They'll inspect unusual textures. They'll learn what wrong can look right in the world of mint errors. And that's where opportunity lies. Because in every generation of coins, there are sleepers, coins that look normal but carry extraordinary value to the right buyer. And modern coins like the 2019 Lincoln cent are especially interesting because they sit at the intersection of mass production and occasional imperfection. Now let's bring this full circle. You started this video thinking about a penny. A single cent, something nearly invisible in terms of value. But now you're looking at it differently. Not because of hype, but because of possibility. And possibility is where wealth always begins. So here's the final pattern interrupt. If someone handed you a lottery ticket already scratched and told you it might be worth thousands, would you ignore it? Or would you double-check just in case? That's exactly how rare coins work. They are already in your hands. The question is whether you've looked closely enough to recognize them. As we close, remember this: the world of rare pennies is not just about money. It's about awareness. It's about understanding that value doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, waiting for someone patient enough and informed enough to notice. And if even a fraction of what we discussed today is sitting inside your own collection, then what you're holding isn't just spare change. It might be opportunity. And in a world where financial freedom is built on awareness and timing, that might be the most valuable discovery of all. In today's video, I want you to look at something that might already be sitting in your home, in a jar, in a drawer, or even forgotten inside your wallet. Because what you're about to hear could completely change how you see everyday pocket change forever. We are talking about the 2014 Lincoln 1-cent penny, specifically a rare mint error variety that has stunned collectors and, in the most extreme cases, has been associated with reported valuations reaching as high as $883,000 in exceptional condition and highly competitive auction environments. Now pause for a second. Did you just feel that? That small spark of curiosity. That's exactly how every great coin discovery story begins. Let's start with a simple question. What if the next coin you touch today is not worth 1 cent, but could potentially be worth more than a luxury home? Most people would laugh that off. They'd say, it's just a penny. But history in the world of rare coins has proven something very different. The smallest details, the tiniest mint mistakes, the things most people overlook without a second thought, those are exactly what turn ordinary coins into life-changing assets. Now imagine this. You're sitting at home, maybe going through an old jar of coins, maybe receiving change at a store, and without realizing it, you're holding a piece of modern mint history. A 2014 D. Lincoln cent that carries a hidden error. Something that slipped through quality control at the US Mint. Something so rare that collectors don't just want it. They aggressively compete for it. And here's where it gets interesting, so stay with me because this is where most people lose attention. Quick question for you. When was the last time you actually looked closely at a penny? Not just glanced at it, but really examined it? If you're like most people, the answer is never. And that single habit, ignoring the small things, is exactly why rare coin discoveries keep happening. Now let's break into what makes the 2014 D. Lincoln penny so fascinating. Struck at the Denver Mint, the 2014 Lincoln Cent series is already widely produced. But within that massive production run, a small number of error coins emerged. These can include striking misalignments, double die features, die cracks, off-center strikes, and other mint anomalies that dramatically increase collector demand. In the coin world, perfection is expected, but imperfection is where fortunes are made. And here's the emotional twist most people don't expect. Fear. Yes, fear. Because imagine realizing that you once spent one of these coins unknowingly. Imagine it passed through your hands in a vending machine transaction or got tossed into a tip jar. That moment of what if is exactly what drives collectors to double-check everything they own. Because in this market, ignorance is not just missed opportunity, it can be permanent loss. Let me slow that down for a second. You might be thinking, okay, but how rare can a penny really be? Well, this is where the story shifts into excitement. Certain 2014 D. Lincoln error cents have appeared in auctions and private sales where competitive bidding pushed values into astonishing territory. While most are worth only face value or a few dollars depending on condition, the most extreme and verified error specimens, especially those with dramatic visual anomalies and top-grade preservation, have reportedly reached figures as high as $883,000 in rare numismatic markets. That number alone should make you pause. And I know what you're thinking right now. Is this real? Or is this just internet hype? That's the right question. Because in coin collecting, truth and hype often sit side by side. But here's the real key. Verified mint errors in modern coins absolutely do exist, and when combined with perfect grading conditions, certification, and collector demand, values can rise exponentially. The difference between a $1 coin and a six-figure coin is often microscopic. Let's bring you back into the moment. Imagine holding a magnifying glass over a penny. You lean in. You notice something unusual. Maybe the lettering looks doubled. Maybe the strike looks slightly off. Maybe the surface shows unusual patterns that don't match standard mint production. First, it feels like nothing. Then it starts to feel different. That's the moment collectors live for. That tiny hesitation where curiosity turns into possibility. And here's a pattern interrupt for you. Let me ask you something slightly funny. If you found a $883,000 penny, would you tell your family first? Or quietly research it for 3 days like a secret agent? Most people say they'd share it immediately, but reality often says otherwise. Discovery changes behavior. Money changes emotion. Now let's move into the most important part, urgency. Because rare coins don't wait for anyone. The market for error coins, especially Lincoln cents, is constantly evolving. Collectors, dealers, and investors are always searching for the next major discovery. And the truth is, many of the most valuable coins ever found were not discovered in vaults or museums. They were found in everyday circulation. Right now, there are collectors actively scanning rolls of pennies, searching bank boxes, and reviewing inherited coin jars. Why? Because they understand something most people ignore. Opportunity still circulates every single day. And the longer coins remain unchecked, the higher the chance that valuable pieces continue to be overlooked. So here is your turning point in this story. If you are watching this and you have any pennies stored away, any at all, this is your moment to pay attention. Not with panic, but with purpose. Because wealth in the coin world is not about luck alone. It's about awareness. It's about taking what others dismiss and seeing what others don't. And let's be clear, you don't need to be a professional numismatist to start recognizing potential value. You just need curiosity. You just need patience. And you need the willingness to look closer than you ever have before. That alone separates the average person from the person who might one day say, "I found something extraordinary in my own home." As we close this out, I want you to think about something powerful. Every coin has a journey, passes through hands, through machines, through time. And occasionally, just occasionally, something slips through the system that was never meant to be common. Those are the moments that create headlines. Those are the moments that create fortunes. So the next time you see a penny, don't dismiss it. Don't rush past it. Pause. Look closer. Because hidden inside the most ordinary object in American currency history could be an extraordinary story waiting to be discovered. And who knows? The next time you check your change, you might not just be holding a penny. You might be holding a decision that changes everything. In the world of modern coin collecting, there are moments when a simple 1-cent piece can suddenly shift from pocket change into a life-changing discovery. Today's story is about one of those moments. A coin that looks ordinary at first glance, yet carries the kind of mystery that has collectors across the United States searching through jars, old drawers, and inherited collections with rising excitement. The 2006 D. Lincoln Memorial Cent, with reported mint errors, has been discussed in collector circles with figures reaching astonishing levels, with some listings and claims suggesting values that can reach as high as $799,000 under extreme rarity conditions. Now, before you dismiss this as just another penny, stay with me, because what you are about to hear could change the way you look at every single coin in your possession. Imagine this for a moment. You are sitting at your kitchen table, sorting through an old coffee can of coins left behind for years. Pennies, nickels, loose change from decades of everyday life. Nothing special, or so you think. Then suddenly, one coin catches your eye. It looks slightly different. The color is off. The strike is unusual. The edge seems wrong. You almost ignore it, but something tells you to pause. That moment of curiosity, that small hesitation, is exactly where wealth stories begin. And here is where things get interesting. The 2006 D. Lincoln Cent is already a part of modern U.S. coinage history. Produced at the Denver Mint, it was created in massive quantities, meaning most examples are worth exactly 1 cent. But in rare and unusual cases, errors in the minting process can transform an ordinary penny into a highly sought-after collector's piece. And in the world of numismatics, error coins are where the real excitement begins. Now let's shift into Act 1 of this story, the discovery. Most people walk past pennies without a second thought. But collectors think differently. They ask questions others don't. Why does this coin look doubled? Why is the strike uneven? Why does the surface look misaligned or misprinted? It's almost like the coin is trying to tell a secret, and only a trained eye or a very lucky one can decode it. And here's the truth that surprises most people. Some of the most valuable modern coins were not found in vaults or museums. They were found in pocket change, in jars, in forgotten collections. One man's spare change can become another man's financial breakthrough. Sounds unbelievable? That's exactly why so many people miss it. Now let me ask you something. If a single penny in your home could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, would you recognize it? Or would it slip right through your fingers unnoticed? That question is where this story starts to shift. Moving into Act 2, we enter the world of error coins and the fascination surrounding the 2006 D. Lincoln Cent. Certain reported anomalies, such as striking errors, misaligned dies, off-center strikes, and unusual minting variations, can dramatically increase collector demand. In rare cases where multiple error types appear together and preservation quality is exceptionally high, collectors compete aggressively to secure ownership, and competition in this space is intense. When serious collectors sense rarity, they don't hesitate. They act fast, often paying premium prices to secure a unique specimen before it disappears back into private hands. That urgency creates momentum, and momentum in the coin world drives value. But here's where things get even more interesting. Many people assume valuable coins are shiny, flawless, and perfect. In reality, the opposite is often true. Imperfection is what creates rarity. A perfectly ordinary penny is worth 1 cent. But a penny with a verified mint error can multiply in value dramatically depending on condition, rarity, and demand. Now let's pause for a second because here comes a reality check moment. Have you ever dumped your loose change into a jar thinking it was useless? Be honest. Most people have. And right there, in that overlooked pile, rare opportunities sometimes sit unnoticed for years. It's almost ironic. The thing we ignore the most might be the thing with the most potential. And just when you think this is all theory, the marketplace tells a different story. Over the years, rare Lincoln cents and modern mint error coins have sold for thousands, tens of thousands, and in extraordinary cases, far higher when multiple factors align such as rarity, grading certification, and collector demand. Some listings and reported high-end private sales in numismatic markets have pushed speculative values into extreme ranges, including headline figures that capture public attention. But here is the key point most people miss. Value is not random. It is driven by scarcity, authentication, and demand at the highest level of collecting communities. Now we enter Act 3, realization and opportunity. This is the moment where everything connects. The 2006 D Lincoln cent isn't just a coin. It represents a broader truth about hidden value in everyday life. Most people are surrounded by assets they don't recognize. And in coin collecting, recognition is everything. Imagine discovering that one small object sitting in your home could potentially change your financial trajectory. Not through luck alone, but through awareness, through attention, through curiosity that most people never allow themselves to act on. And here's the emotional truth behind it all: fear and excitement often live side by side in moments like this. Fear of missing out on something valuable. Excitement at the possibility that something overlooked could become extraordinary. That tension is what makes coin hunting so addictive for collectors across the country. So what happens next? People start checking. They start sorting. They start learning what to look for. And once that awareness clicks in, it never fully turns off again. Every handful of change becomes a potential discovery. Every coin becomes a question waiting to be answered. And here's a question for you. What if the next coin you pick up is the one everyone else overlooked? That's the power of this world. Now, before we close, it's important to ground this excitement in reality. Not every 2006 D penny will carry extreme value. Most are still worth face value. But in rare cases where authentic mint errors are confirmed and grading authorities verify condition and rarity, the value can rise significantly, sometimes reaching extraordinary figures that circulate in collector discussions and high-end listings. And that is exactly why awareness matters. Because opportunity does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it hides in silence, in drawers, in jars, in places you stopped paying attention to long ago. So if you take anything from this story, let it be this: the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is often just awareness. The next time you see a penny, don't rush past it. Look closer, question it, respect it, because in the world of rare coins, the smallest detail can hold the biggest surprise. And who knows, the coin you almost ignored today might just be the one that changes everything tomorrow. If you've ever dumped a jar of old pennies onto the kitchen table and thought, there's probably nothing here worth more than a few cents, you might want to pause right now, because what I'm about to share could completely change how you look at everyday pocket change forever. Somewhere in circulation, or sitting quietly inside an old coin jar, drawer, or forgotten box, there are Lincoln pennies that have stunned collectors and auction houses alike. And one of the most talked about examples is the elusive 2002 Lincoln cent with a rare no-mint mark variety and reported error characteristics that, in certain verified conditions and collector markets, has been associated with extraordinary demand and staggering valuations reaching into the hundreds of thousands of dollars, with some high-end listings and speculative market discussions even pushing figures as high as $745. 000. Now, before you dismiss this as just another coin story, stay with me, because the truth is far more interesting and far more urgent than most people realize. Let's begin where most people lose opportunity without even knowing it. Every single day, rare coins slip through hands unnoticed. They get spent on coffee, tossed into tip jars, or rolled up and deposited into banks. And the painful reality is this: most people who miss them never even know what they lost. That's not exaggeration. That's the hidden nature of modern coin collecting. The real wealth isn't always locked in vaults. Sometimes it's sitting in plain sight, disguised as something ordinary. Now imagine this for a moment. You're sitting at your table tonight. You grab a handful of pennies. To most people, it's pocket change. But to a trained eye, it could be a life-changing discovery. And yes, that's exactly where the 2002 Lincoln cent conversation becomes so powerful. Here's what makes this coin so fascinating. The Lincoln penny series has been minted for over a century, but certain years and certain minting anomalies create rare conditions where coins escape the mint with unusual characteristics. In the case of the 2002 Lincoln cent, collectors have reported unusual no-mint mark appearances combined with striking or planchet irregularities that make these coins stand out under magnification. And in the world of numismatics, even the smallest deviation can transform a 1-cent coin into a highly sought-after collectible. Now let's slow down for a second, because this is where most viewers either lean in or tune out. Ask yourself this: if a coin worth hundreds of thousands of dollars looked identical to a normal penny at first glance, would you actually recognize it? Most people would not. And that is exactly why these coins continue to generate excitement, debate, and urgency in collector communities. But let's go deeper. The reason rare error coins like this can reach extraordinary valuations is not hype. It's scarcity, demand, and verification. When collectors believe a coin represents a legitimate mint error with strong provenance, competition can escalate quickly. In some auction environments, bidding wars can drive prices far beyond what the average person would ever expect for something so small you could balance it on your fingertip. And here's where things get even more interesting. There are documented cases in numismatic history where Lincoln cents, yes, 1-cent coins, have sold for six figures due to unique minting errors, rare compositions, or extreme scarcity. While not every claim you hear online is verified or consistent across grading authorities, the market itself is undeniably real, and it rewards knowledge. Now let me pause for a moment, because this is important. If you're over 30, 40, 50, or even 60 years old, you likely have handled thousands of pennies in your lifetime. Gas stations, grocery stores, old jars, even inherited collections. And here's the uncomfortable truth most people never consider: you may have already touched something valuable and never realized it. That thought alone should make you look at change differently. Let's return to the 2002 cent discussion. Collectors looking for this type of coin focus on specific indicators: anomalies in strike quality, missing or weak mint identifiers, and subtle production inconsistencies that can only be confirmed under proper magnification and expert grading. This is not something you spot casually while buying groceries. This is a detail-driven discovery process, and that's exactly why so many valuable coins remain undiscovered. And now, let's shift the energy for a moment, because I want you to picture something powerful. Imagine discovering that a simple penny sitting in your possession, maybe from an old collection or a forgotten container, was suddenly confirmed by a professional grading service to be a rare mint error. Not only rare, but highly desirable. Suddenly, what you thought was insignificant becomes a financial opportunity that could change your retirement outlook, your debt situation, or even your lifestyle. That's not fantasy. That's the real psychology of rare collectibles markets. And yes, this is where urgency comes in. Because every year, coins like these continue to circulate, continue to get overlooked, and continue to disappear into everyday commerce. The difference between someone who benefits and someone who misses out is often just awareness. Let me break the pattern for a second. If you're thinking, this sounds too good to be true, that's exactly what most people think right before they find out someone else sold a similar coin for a life-changing amount. It's not about luck. It's about attention to detail and timing. Now let's bring everything together. The 2002 Lincoln cent, with reported no mint mark characteristics and potential mint error variations, has become part of a broader conversation in the coin collecting world. One that blends scarcity, speculation, and serious collector interest. While not every example is worth life-changing money, verified high-grade or authentically rare error specimens can command exceptional premiums in competitive markets. And here's the final truth most people never hear clearly enough. Wealth is not always about earning more. Sometimes it's about recognizing what you already have. So if you have old pennies stored away, inherited collections sitting untouched, or even just a habit of ignoring small change, this is your moment to reconsider. Because the next time you hear about a coin selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars, ask yourself a simple question. Was it rare because it was found, or because someone finally paid attention? And if this sparked even a bit of curiosity, then your next step is simple. Go check your coins. Not tomorrow, not later, today. Because opportunities like this don't wait for perfect timing, they wait for informed eyes. And who knows? The next story like this might not be something you hear on a video. It might be something sitting right in your hands right now. If you think a 1-cent coin can't change your life, you're about to rethink everything you've ever been told about pocket change. Because right now, hidden in old jars, forgotten drawers, and dusty coin folders across America, there are Lincoln pennies that look completely ordinary, but could quietly be worth a small fortune. And today, we're focusing on one of the most talked about modern rarities in the coin world, the 1994 Lincoln penny with no mint mark error, a coin that has sparked intense debate, collector frenzy, and in some reported cases, extraordinary valuations that have reached into the six-figure range and beyond. Now here's the question I want you to hold in your mind as we begin. What if the next coin you casually ignore is the one that could shift your entire financial picture? It's 1994. The United States Mint is producing billions of pennies. Machines are running nonstop. Coins are being struck, inspected, and released into circulation at lightning speed. In a system that large and fast, perfection is expected but not guaranteed. And that's where the story gets interesting, because every so often something slips through. A mistake so subtle that most people would never notice it. A penny that should carry a clear mint mark, indicating where it was produced, simply doesn't. No D for Denver. No S for San Francisco. Just a blank space where identity should be. And for the untrained eye, it looks like nothing. Just another penny. But for collectors, that's where things start to get exciting. Now imagine you're sitting at your kitchen table, sorting coins. You're half watching TV, maybe sipping coffee, and you almost dismiss a penny because, well, wait a second, something looks off. And that moment, just that small pause, is where fortunes have historically been discovered. Here's a little reality check that might surprise you. Most high-value coins are not found in museums or auctions first. They are found in everyday circulation. In change. In jars. In places most people stop paying attention. Let me ask you something real quick. When was the last time you truly looked at a penny? The 1994 no mint mark Lincoln cent is not famous because it is common. It is famous because it is the opposite of common. It is part of a category of error coins that collectors actively hunt for. Coins that were never meant to exist in the form they appear today. In the coin collecting world, mint marks are not decoration. They are identity. They tell the story of origin, production, and authenticity. So when that mark is missing, it immediately raises questions. Was it a production error? A rare oversight? A special strike anomaly? And that uncertainty is where demand is born. Now let's pause for a second, because I need you to catch this. If everyone understood coin errors perfectly, they wouldn't be valuable. The value exists because knowledge is limited, attention is rare, and timing is everything. And this is where urgency enters the picture. Because collectors, investors, and dealers are constantly searching. They are not casually browsing, they are actively hunting. And when a verified error coin surfaces, competition can become intense very quickly. There have been reported market listings and collector-driven valuations of rare mint error pennies, including certain high-grade or authenticated error specimens, reaching extraordinary price discussions in the numismatic community, with some figures cited as high as hundreds of thousands of dollars depending on condition, grading, and authentication. Now I want to stop right there for a moment. Did you feel that shift? That's the difference between just a penny and potential asset. But let's be honest for a second, because I know what you might be thinking. How can something so small possibly be worth that much? And that's exactly the mindset that keeps most people from ever finding value in front of them. Let me say it another way. The biggest financial opportunities are often disguised as the most boring objects. Okay, quick pattern interrupt. Imagine this. You walk into a coin shop with a penny in your hand and walk out with enough money to take a vacation you've been postponing for 10 years. Sounds dramatic? Maybe. But stories like this are exactly why collectors stay alert. Now, back to the coin. Condition matters. Authentication matters. Grading matters. A 1994 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny that is worn, damaged, or heavily circulated may not carry significant value. But a verified mint error in strong condition, confirmed by professional grading services, is where serious attention begins. And this is where opportunity becomes real, not theoretical. Because the market for rare US error coins continues to attract collectors across all age groups, especially those who are actively looking to convert old collections into real financial gains or build long-term wealth through tangible assets. Now let's move into Act 3. The realization that here's the truth most. People don't hear enough. Wealth is not always created by earning more. Sometimes it is created by recognizing what you already have. And in the world of coin collecting, that principle is incredibly powerful. Right now, across the United States, there are people sitting on collections they inherited, stored, or forgot about entirely. Boxes that haven't been opened in decades. Jars filled during years of daily spending. Piggy banks sealed in time. And inside those containers could be coins that carry real collector demand. So what should you do next? You slow down. You look closely. You learn what to look for. And you stop assuming that old means worthless. Because the next time you see a 1994 Lincoln penny without a mint mark, you won't see pocket change anymore. You'll see a possibility. And here's where I want to leave you with a simple but powerful idea. The difference between someone who builds wealth from collectibles and someone who doesn't is not luck. It is awareness. One person spends it without a second thought. The other pauses, just long enough to ask, what if this is something more? And sometimes that single question changes everything. If you've made it this far, you already understand the game at a deeper level than most. And the next step is simple. Start paying attention to what others overlook. Because in the world of rare coins, attention is not just power. In the quiet shuffle of pocket change, in the sound of coins clinking at the bottom of an old jar, there is a question most people never stop to ask. What if one of those pennies is not worth 1 cent at all, but worth a life-changing fortune? Today, you are about to step into a story that could permanently change the way you look at every single copper coin in your possession. Because hidden inside ordinary-looking change is a specific rarity that collectors whisper about with intensity. The 1992 D-Mint Mark Lincoln penny with a rare error that, in exceptional cases, has been reported to command figures as high as $733,000. Now, before you dismiss this as just another coin story, let me stop you right there. Ask yourself this: how many times have you spent a penny without even looking at the date? And more importantly, what if the next one you ignore is the one that could have paid off your mortgage, your medical bills, or even your retirement? Funny thought, right? Or maybe a slightly uncomfortable one. This is not just about coins. It's about awareness, timing, and opportunity hiding in plain sight. Act 1 begins in the most ordinary place imaginable: the everyday American household. A kitchen drawer, a dusty jar on a dresser, a forgotten coin roll from the bank. In 1992, millions of Lincoln pennies were minted in Denver with the D-Mint mark. They entered circulation quietly, unnoticed, uncelebrated. They were meant to be insignificant, just another drop in an ocean of change. But here's where the story takes a turn that most people miss entirely. Because among those millions, a tiny number emerged with unusual characteristics. Errors so subtle that only trained eyes or very lucky moments of inspection could catch them. And this is where the emotional weight hits. Most of these coins are still out there, still circulating, still being spent like they're worthless. Pause for a moment. Imagine handing one to a cashier for a pack of gum. The irony is almost painful. Now let's build tension. What makes the 1992 D Lincoln penny so special isn't just its age. It's the specific minting anomaly that collectors associate with transitional design features and rare die variations. Some examples show inconsistencies that suggest something went wrong during production at the Denver Mint. And in the world of coin collecting, something went wrong is often another way of saying something became extremely valuable. Here's a pattern interrupt for you. When was the last time you looked closely at a penny? Not just a glance. I mean, really looked at it. Go ahead, mentally picture one. Copper sheen, Abraham Lincoln's profile, the small d under the date. Simple, right? Or deceptively simple. Because Act 2 is where everything changes. We move from ordinary awareness into the high-stakes world of numismatics, where collectors, investors, and dealers treat coins like assets, not currency. In this world, condition is king, rarity is royalty, and error coins are the crown jewels. The 1992 D Lincoln cent, in its rare error variations, has been discussed in collector circles as one of those unexpected surprises that can turn pocket change into portfolio-changing wealth. And yes, reports and high-end auction discussions have placed extraordinary examples of rare error specimens at valuations reaching into the hundreds of thousands of dollars, with some sensational listings and claims pushing as high as $733,000 under exceptional circumstances. Now, is every 1992 D penny worth that? Absolutely not, and this is where most people get it wrong. But the existence of even one verified high-value specimen creates something powerful: possibility. And possibility changes behavior. Let me ask you something. If you knew there was even a 1 in a million chance that a coin in your home could change your financial future, would you still ignore it? Or would you finally take a second look at that old jar sitting in your kitchen? This is where urgency starts to creep in. Not panic, awareness. Because coins like these do not announce themselves. They do not glow. They do not come with instructions. They sit quietly until someone knowledgeable or simply attentive recognizes what others missed. And here's the twist most people never consider. These coins don't just sit in collections. They get spent. They get lost. They get tossed into vending machines, piggy banks, donation boxes. The opportunity is constantly moving, constantly disappearing. Now let's reset for a moment. Imagine I told you that wealth has been hiding in your home for decades. Would you laugh? Or would you start checking immediately? Good. Hold on to that feeling, because we're entering Act 3. This is where knowledge becomes action. In the world of rare coins, the difference between a penny and a payday often comes down to inspection. Date, mint mark, strike quality, and most importantly, anomalies that most people overlook. The 1992 D Lincoln penny with rare error characteristics represents exactly this kind of overlooked opportunity. But here is the real message behind the excitement. The market for rare coins is not slowing down. It is intensifying. More collectors are entering. More auctions are setting record prices. More awareness means more competition. And in any high-demand market, early awareness is everything. Let me give you a quick mental image. Picture two people. One dismisses every penny without looking. The other takes 10 seconds per coin, calmly checking details most people ignore. Fast forward a few years. Who do you think has the better chance of discovering something valuable? It's not luck. It's behavior. And here's a light moment to keep us grounded. Yes, I know what you're thinking. Am I really about to start inspecting pennies like I'm searching for buried treasure? The answer is yes. But also, welcome to the club of people who realize treasure doesn't always require a shovel. Because the truth is, opportunity rarely looks dramatic when it arrives. It looks ordinary. It looks like change in your pocket. It looks like pennies in a jar. And the difference between missing it and finding it is often just attention. So as we close this journey, understand this clearly. The 1992 D Lincoln penny with rare error potential is more than just a coin. It represents a mindset shift, a reminder that value is not always obvious, and that sometimes what everyone else overlooks is exactly where wealth begins. The question now is simple, and it stays with you long after this video ends. How many pennies have you already ignored today? And more importantly, how many more will you ignore tomorrow? Because somewhere out there, possibly even closer than you think, a small copper coin is waiting to be noticed, and in the right hands, it could change everything. If you've ever tossed a penny into a jar thinking it was just 1 cent, you might want to stop everything right now, because what I'm about to show you could change the way you look at spare change forever. There is a growing wave of attention around the 1979 Lincoln cent with no mint mark, and some listings and online claims have pushed its perceived value into staggering territory. Numbers like $699,000 are being thrown around in collector circles and viral posts. But here's the real question that keeps experienced collectors alert and everyday Americans suddenly curious. Is there actually a hidden fortune sitting in your old penny jar right now? Or is this just another coin myth? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will know exactly how to identify what matters, what doesn't, and what could genuinely turn pocket change into serious money. Let's begin with the reality behind what makes people stop mid-scroll when they hear no mint mark penny. In 1979, most Lincoln cents were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, and coins from Philadelphia during that era typically do not carry a mint mark. That means millions upon millions of 1979 pennies already exist without a mint mark. And here's where the tension begins, because rarity is what drives value, not just age or curiosity. So when you hear dramatic numbers like hundreds of thousands of dollars attached to a coin like this, your first instinct should be excitement, followed immediately by scrutiny. Because in the world of coin collecting, excitement without verification is exactly how people get misled. Now imagine this for a second. You're sitting at your kitchen table, going through an old coffee can full of coins you've ignored for years. Pennies, nickels, dust from another decade. You're not expecting anything. And then you see it. A 1979 penny. No mint mark. Your pulse quickens just a little. Wait, could this be it? You ask yourself. That moment, that tiny spark of possibility, is exactly why coin stories like this spread so fast. It's not just about money. It's about the idea that something ordinary in your hand could suddenly be extraordinary. But let's slow down for a second, because here's a pattern most people miss. Not every no mint mark coin is rare. In fact, for Philadelphia coins of that era, no mint mark is expected. So what actually creates value? This is where things get interesting. Value comes from error varieties, strike anomalies, dramatic doubling, off-center strikes, wrong planchets, or rare preservation grades that survive decades untouched. Without those factors, even a perfectly normal 1979 penny, no matter how clean it looks, usually remains a common coin in circulation. Now I want you to imagine something else. You send that same coin to grading. It comes back not just nice, but in extraordinary condition, nearly flawless under professional grading standards. Suddenly, the conversation changes. Now you're not talking about pocket change anymore. You're talking about collectors, auctions, competition, and scarcity psychology. This is where hype and reality start to collide. Because while most coins don't reach extreme valuations, the highest grade rarities in any series can attract aggressive bidding from serious collectors who want the best of the best. And here's where I need to interrupt myself for a second, because if you're thinking, so every 1979 penny could be valuable, let me stop you right there. That's exactly the kind of assumption that causes disappointment. The truth is more powerful than that. It's not about every coin. It's about the right coin, with the right combination of condition and verified error characteristics. That distinction is everything. Let's move deeper into Act 2, the moment where most people either lose interest or get completely hooked. Picture the collector world like a silent battlefield. Dealers, auction houses, private buyers, they're all constantly scanning for anomalies. One small error can turn a 1-cent piece into a headline. But here's the catch. The market is extremely disciplined. Claims of extreme values, such as hundreds of thousands of dollars for a common date penny, often circulate online without verified auction records backing them. However, what is real is the existence of high-value Lincoln cent errors across multiple years and mint marks when genuine rarity is proven and certified. So when you hear numbers like $699,000 attached to a 1979 no mint mark penny, the responsible collector mindset doesn't panic or dismiss, it investigates. Where did it sell? Was it auctioned? Was it graded by a top-tier service? Was it an exceptional mint error or just a standard strike being exaggerated? This is the difference between emotional speculation and real numismatic value. Let's pause for a moment. Quick question for you. If you found a coin in your pocket worth even $5,000, would you recognize it instantly? Or would it look just like everything else you've been spending for years? That uncertainty is exactly why this topic grabs attention across generations. Now we enter Act 3, the resolution, and the shift from curiosity to empowerment. Here's what experienced collectors understand that most people don't. Wealth in coin collecting is not built on hype, it's built on knowledge. The people who consistently profit are not guessing. They are identifying, verifying, and acting with precision. They understand grading standards, they understand minting history, and they understand that true rarity is measurable, not viral. So what should you actually do if you come across a 1979 Lincoln cent with no mint mark? First, don't assume value based on internet claims alone. Instead, look closely for abnormalities, doubling in the lettering, unusual coloration that suggests a planchet issue, misalignment in the strike, or anything that separates it from millions of identical coins. If something genuinely stands out, that's when professional grading becomes the next logical step. That's where real valuation begins, not speculation. And here's the emotional truth behind all of this. The real excitement isn't just in finding a valuable coin. It's in realizing that you finally know what everyone else is overlooking. That shift from uncertainty to awareness is where collectors are made. It's not luck. It's literacy in a world most people walk through without ever looking down. So as we close, remember this. The 1979 Lincoln cent with no mint mark is not automatically a $699,000 treasure. But it is part of a much larger story. A story where small details matter, where knowledge creates opportunity, and where ordinary objects can occasionally become extraordinary assets when everything aligns perfectly. And maybe the next time you hear coins rattling in your hand, you won't hear just change anymore. You'll hear possibility. In a world where most people overlook the smallest things in their hands, there exists a hidden category of wealth that has quietly changed lives across America. Right now, sitting in old jars, drawers, coin folders, and even between couch cushions, could be one of the most talked about modern Lincoln penny errors in numismatic circles, the 1975 no mint mark Lincoln cent. And for a rare few examples in exceptional condition and verified error status, reports and high-end listings have placed values reaching as high as hundreds of thousands of dollars, with some claims circulating up to the $841,000 range. Whether or not you are holding that exact top-tier specimen, one thing is certain: the opportunity in your pocket change has never been more serious. Now, before you dismiss this as just another penny story, pause for a moment. Because the difference between someone who walks past wealth and someone who builds a fortune from it is attention. And today, you're about to look at a 1-cent coin the same way seasoned collectors, auction houses, and private investors do. And let's be honest, when was the last time something worth life-changing money was hiding in plain sight and nobody told you clearly how to recognize it? Let's begin. Act 1. The discovery that changes everything. It starts in 1975, a year where millions of Lincoln cents were produced under strict U.S. mint standards. Most of them came from Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, each marked accordingly. But here's where things get interesting. Some 1975 Lincoln cents appear without any mint mark at all. To the untrained eye, that might look normal. But to collectors, that missing tiny letter is where the story becomes explosive. Imagine holding a penny that looks ordinary, until you realize it doesn't match the standard production process. That's the kind of realization that has turned everyday people into overnight headline stories in the coin world. Now here's where emotion kicks in, fear and urgency. Because think about it, how many coins have you already spent without ever looking twice? How many rolled through your hands at gas stations, grocery stores, vending machines, never knowing their potential? And here's a question that should stop you for a second. What if one of those was the one? Now, let's clear something up before excitement turns into confusion. Not every 1975 no mint mark penny is automatically worth a fortune. Condition, verification, and authenticity matter deeply. But in rare cases, where the coin shows true minting anomalies or exceptional preservation, the value can rise dramatically in collector markets. Some certified examples and error-verified specimens have been reported in high-end numismatic discussions and auction environments to reach extraordinary figures, sometimes into 6 figures and beyond, with speculative listings and rare claims even pushing into extreme valuations like $841,000. That number alone grabs attention, but what truly matters is understanding why collectors would even consider paying such amounts. Because rarity always rewrites value. Now let's move forward, because this is where most people lose focus and where opportunity becomes real. Act 2. Why the market is exploding right now. The coin market is not what it used to be. Over the past decade, rare U.S. coin collecting has shifted from a quiet hobby into a global investment arena. Wealthy collectors, private investors, and even new digital auction platforms have intensified demand for rare error coins, especially Lincoln cents with unusual minting characteristics. And here's the key emotional trigger: urgency. Because once collectors identify a coin variety as rare and desirable, the window to acquire it cheaply closes fast. That's when values climb. That's when competition increases. And that's when ordinary coins become financial assets. Now imagine this, a coin that cost 1 cent at face value potentially becoming a mortgage-paying, retirement-shaping, life-changing asset decades later. Sounds extreme? That's exactly how most rare coin stories sound right before they're proven true in auction houses. Let's take a moment here. Quick pattern interrupt. If you're sitting down right now, maybe even holding your phone thinking, this sounds too good to be true, let me ask you something simple. What if it's not? What if the real risk isn't that this is fake, but that you ignore it and someone else doesn't? Because that's how wealth shifts happen. Quietly, one discovery at a time. Now back to the coin. A 1975 Lincoln cent without a mint mark can fall into several categories. Some are standard strikes where mint marks were not applied due to production variations or Philadelphia Mint output practices. Others, far more valuable, may involve misstrikes, die errors, or exceptionally rare preservation states that collectors actively pursue. And in numismatics, demand is everything. When demand rises and supply stays frozen in history, prices don't just rise, they accelerate. That is why reports, listings, and collector conversations continue to reference extraordinary valuations, including those reaching into the hundreds of thousands, and in rare speculative cases, even higher figures like the widely circulated $841,000 benchmark. Now let's be clear, not every coin will reach that level. But every coin is evaluated on the same principles: rarity, condition, demand, and verified authenticity. And this is where opportunity lives. Act 3. The wealth window most people miss here is the part that separates casual viewers from serious action takers. Most people will hear this information, feel a spark of curiosity, and then move on with their day. But a small percentage will do something different. They will check. They will look. They will investigate what they already own. And that small action is where stories change, because somewhere in America right now, someone is going through an old coin jar, wiping dust off pennies, noticing something unusual, and realizing they are holding something they never expected. And let's add a little humor here because it's necessary. Yes, I know what you're thinking. I've been saving pennies like a squirrel storing nuts for winter. And now you're telling me I might be sitting on a small fortune? The answer is simple: possibly. Now urgency returns. Because coins like the 1975 no-mint mark Lincoln cent do not become easier to find over time. They get absorbed into collections. They disappear into private holdings. They get locked away in safes, passed down in estates, or sold quietly through high-level auctions. The open market shrinks. And when supply shrinks, value concentrates. So here is the mindset shift you need to make right now. Stop thinking of pennies as pennies. Start thinking of them as historical assets with potential hidden anomalies. Because wealth is not always created by earning more. Sometimes it is created by recognizing value before others do. And that brings us to the final truth. The difference between someone who watches opportunities and someone who benefits from them is action. Right now, the 1975 no-mint mark Lincoln penny remains one of those fascinating coins that continues to generate discussion, collector interest, and high-end valuation speculation in the numismatic world. Whether you are a seasoned collector or someone just rediscovering old change jars, the message is the same: pay attention to what others ignore. Because in the world of rare coins, the smallest details often carry the largest stories, and sometimes the most surprising value. And before you move on today, ask yourself one final question: what if the next coin you touch is the one that changes everything? Because for someone, somewhere, it already has. In today's video, you are about to step into a world that most people walk past every single day without ever noticing. A world where a single penny, the one sitting in an old jar, a drawer, or tucked inside a forgotten coin roll, could quietly represent a life-changing discovery. And not just a few dollars, but in rare and highly unusual cases, figures that collectors and auction watchers have discussed reaching into the hundreds of thousands of dollars, with some viral listings and speculative reports claiming even higher extremes around the $693,000 mark for extraordinary error condition examples. Now, before you dismiss this as just another coin story, stay with me, because what you are about to learn is not about luck. It's about awareness. And awareness is what separates people who casually spend coins from those who quietly build wealth from them. This is a faceless journey into one of the most intriguing Lincoln cent mysteries tied to the 1967 no-mint mark penny, its error possibilities, and why collectors continue to search for it with growing urgency even decades later. We begin with a simple question: what if you already owned one? Not in theory, not in a dream, but right now, somewhere in your possession. And that thought alone is where everything changes. I end the first act of this story. Imagine yourself in a quiet moment, sorting through change after a long day. The sound of coins clinking onto a table. Nothing special at first, just copper-colored pennies, familiar and overlooked. You barely glance at them. Most people don't. But here is where the mind shifts. Because in 1967, the United States Mint was producing Lincoln cents during a very specific era. These coins were struck in massive quantities, and unlike some other years, they carry no mint mark as part of standard production practices at that time. That alone confuses many people, because they assume no mint mark automatically means something rare or missing. But in reality, for that year, it was normal. And yet, here is where things get interesting. Within large-scale production, mistakes happen. Not dramatic movie-style mistakes, but subtle variations. A slightly off strike, a misaligned die, a planchet flaw, a weak impression that creates unusual textures or features. And these are the moments that collectors obsess over. Now picture this carefully. A coin that looks ordinary at first glance, but under the right lighting, something feels off. The surface looks slightly different. The strike seems unusual. The details on Lincoln's profile appear either too soft or oddly pronounced. You tilt it again. Something is there, but you cannot quite name it yet. That uncertainty is powerful, because in the world of rare coins, uncertainty is often the first signal of opportunity. And here comes the emotional trigger most people miss. Fear of overlooking value that was in your hands all along. It's not fear of loss in the traditional sense. It's the quiet realization that people throw away, spend, or ignore things every single day that collectors would pay extraordinary money for. Now let's pause for a second. If you're already thinking, I've seen thousands of pennies in my life, you're exactly the audience this story is for, because familiarity is what hides rarity, and that is where Act 1 ends, with awareness beginning to wake up. Now we move into Act 2, where curiosity turns into investigation. Let's talk about what makes the 1967 Lincoln cent so widely discussed among collectors. First, its massive circulation volume. These coins were produced in enormous numbers, meaning most are worth only face value. But within high-volume production runs, error coins become statistically rare anomalies. And anomalies are what collectors chase. Some of the most talked about variations include striking errors, off-center impressions, die deterioration issues, and unusual surface characteristics that can sometimes appear more dramatic under magnification. In rare cases, coins that appear to have missing or weak design elements have generated excitement in collector communities, especially when combined with unusually strong eye appeal or preserved condition. Now here's where things get exciting. Certain auction discussions and online listings have occasionally elevated exceptional error-type examples into extremely high valuation conversations. While not typical or guaranteed, these headline-grabbing figures, sometimes reaching into six figures or being speculated as high as $693,000 in viral discussions, fuel a powerful sense of urgency in the collecting world. But let's be clear in a grounded way. The value of any coin depends heavily on authenticity, grading, rarity of the error, and demand from serious collectors. Most 1967 pennies are common. However, the rare, dramatic error specimens in exceptional condition are where the attention, and sometimes the headlines, emerge. Now imagine this: a collector holding a magnified lens over a coin that most people would ignore completely. The lighting is precise. The inspection is slow. Every detail matters. Because in this world, value is not obvious. It is revealed. And here is the psychological turning point. Excitement builds when you realize that discovery is still possible today. Even in a world filled with digital payments and automation, physical coins still circulate. They still pass through hands. They still end up in jars, drawers, and collections waiting to be examined. Let me ask you something directly. How many pennies have passed through your hands in the last month alone without a second thought? Now imagine if just one of them was different. That single question is where attention locks in. And just like that, we transition toward the final ACT.IN Act 3, we step into realization, opportunity, and action. Because knowledge without action is where most opportunities quietly disappear. Let's bring everything together. The 1967 Lincoln Cent, while common in standard form, becomes fascinating when viewed through the lens of error collecting and condition rarity. The possibility of unusual strikes, minting anomalies, or highly preserved specimens is what keeps collectors constantly searching. And here is the important mindset shift. Wealth in coin collecting does not come from random guessing. It comes from awareness, patience, and understanding what professionals look for: detail, condition, and verified rarity. Now imagine you discover a coin that seems unusual. The worst thing you can do is assume. The best thing you can do is evaluate. That means comparing, researching, and when needed, submitting for professional grading services that specialize in authentication and valuation. Because in this world, verification is everything. And here is where urgency enters, not panic, but awareness of timing. Rare coin markets are constantly shifting based on demand, collector interest, and auction activity. What is overlooked today can become highly sought after tomorrow. That is why serious collectors never stop looking. They do not rely on chance. They rely on consistency. Most people will hear this and do nothing. They will think, interesting, and move on. But a small group will pause and actually check. That small group is the one that occasionally finds something extraordinary. And that is the quiet truth behind wealth building in rare coins. It is not about searching harder than everyone else. It is about noticing what everyone else ignores. So if you take anything from this story, take this. The next time you hold a penny in your hand, do not just see 1 cent, see the tiny window where rarity hides in plain sight. And maybe, just maybe, you will be the one who discovers that what looked ordinary was anything but. Because in the world of coin collecting, fortune does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes, it is already sitting in your pocket, waiting for you to finally pay. Tension.